Welcome to AccountKit. In this session, we are going to showcase how you can set up your default settings for your client maps. Under your name, down on the bottom left, as a practice administrator, you should have the option to jump into your practice settings. From this screen, we'll jump across to Tool Settings, and we'll head down to our client maps. Within the Client Maps window here, we have the ability to set up our default color scheme, icons, and shapes for our structure diagrams. Please note that any changes you make here are not retroactive and will not change any existing client maps that you've already built. This is why it is so important to get these settings correct from the outset before you begin creating structure diagrams. Underneath General Settings, we have the ability to set what our default schedule type is. We would highly recommend leaving this as proposed, or if you have it set to current, please move it to proposed. The reason being is when you set up a proposed diagram, it ensures that any edits or changes you make do not synchronize to XPM until you then migrate it to current, allowing you to edit to your heart's content for the various proposals that you might be making for your client structures. We then have the ability to set custom practice colors. Now you can also set these within the practice settings area. However, if you simply select the plus icon on this screen, we have a standard set of colors for selection, or the ability to add practice colors using a hex categorization or selecting it on a color palette. Once you have selected the colors of your requirements, you can then head down to your next setting area, which is to set your colors on your entity types. Next, we have the ability to set our themes. Now we can select our theme that we would like to edit or add a new theme that we would like to create, and then our default theme can be set at the practice level. In this case, we're utilizing the classic theme. Once we've got those established, we come down and we may want to represent companies as a different color. If I jump into the header background color and select a brighter red, this will then change the color of the entity type when it's added to a structure diagram. We can change this for any of the elements as we see them on screen, so please feel free to have a play to your heart's content until you're comfortable with the color scheme that you've got selected. We can also edit the shapes and icons that we would like to represent for our different entity types, noting that we have them set with rectangles at the top of the shapes so that text wraps or fits more conformally to the shape that you've selected. We then have the ability to select font type and border colors as required, so feel free to edit these as needed. We also have the ability to move to other settings. This is where we can establish what shows by default on each of your entities, whether we'd like to show or hide the TFN, the ABN, and things like date of birth and establishment. We can select the font types and size of font and placement of font that we would like to use for the different elements on our shapes, and even our default line settings that we'd like to use across the organization. Once these designs and elements are complete, we then head over to our structure diagrams and we can begin creation of our client maps, ensuring that all future maps are designed the way that the practice would prefer. And that is how you set up your client maps for success in AccountKit.